You do it when no one's watching, when the day feels heavy, when your chest holds something you can't name. You call it relief, but your soul knows it's not. Carl Jung wouldn't shame you. He'd listen. Then he'd ask, "What pain are you hiding from?" This isn't about addiction or morality. This is about energy and what you've traded it for. You think it helps, but it empties you, quietly, steadily, without asking for permission. The habit feels small, private, harmless. But every time you escape into it, you abandon something sacred, your own presence. It's not the act itself, it's the pattern, the cycle. You reach for comfort and lose clarity. You reach for relief and lose connection. It's not desire, it's not weakness. It's disconnection, pretending to soothe you. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be honest. Why do you keep choosing silence over presence? Numbing over knowing? Comfort over confrontation? Jung taught that the shadow doesn't scream. It whispers. In these exact moments, it says, "Look at me. Feel what I carry. Stop running." But you run because it's easier, because feeling is a risk, because somewhere along the way you believed you were too much, too broken, too needy. So you vanished into distraction, into the glow of a screen, into a pattern that asked for nothing, but took everything. It took your attention, your fire, your edge, your energy. And now, when someone looks at you, they don't see clarity, they see confusion. They feel it, that something inside you is missing. But here's the truth. You're not broken. You're buried. Under repetition. Under guilt. Under a ritual that promised escape, but delivered exhaustion. Jung wouldn't tell you to stop. He'd tell you to feel, to listen, to make space for what hurts, instead of hiding it again. You crave relief, but what you really need is return. Return to the parts of you you've silenced. Return to the self you forgot how to hold. Return to your energy, your clarity, your power. And it starts here, not with shame, not with suppression, but with a question. What am I really trying to soothe? You learn to leave yourself early, not with your feet, but with your focus, with your breath, with your presence. Somewhere in childhood, the message landed, you're too much, too sensitive, too emotional, too intense. So you did what all smart children do. You split. You buried your needs. You became safe, quiet, controlled. But something stayed alive, a part of you that still wanted to be seen, heard, held. And when that part aches, you don't know what to do. So you reach for what's easy, fast, predictable. You escape. And escape becomes routine, a ritual, an identity. But here's the catch. Every time you run from yourself, you teach your nervous system that you are unsafe, that your own emotions are the enemy, that staying still equals danger. Carl Jung called this the divided self, not a pathology, a survival strategy. You're not lazy, you're not weak, you're just tired of fighting a war you forgot you were in, the war against your own feelings. But peace doesn't come through suppression, it comes through integration, through turning toward the thing you keep avoiding, that ache inside you. It's not here to ruin you, it's here to reunite you. You've mistaken emotional hunger for desire. You've mistaken nervous tension for chemistry. You've mistaken instant comfort for real connection. And the more you feed the surface, the more the depth starves. You can't fake wholeness. You can't hack self-worth. You have to remember, and remembering hurts. At first, because when you stop escaping, all the feelings come back. The shame, the fear, the unmet need. But stay, just stay. You've abandoned yourself enough times. Now is the time to return. You think it's your mind that craves, but really, it's your body, trying to complete a story that never had an ending. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious isn't just a part of your mind. It lives in your cells, your breath, your pulse, your posture. Every impulse you feel isn't just a random urge. It's a signal, a voice, a memory the body hasn't fully processed yet. And when that memory gets triggered, you think you want pleasure. But what you really want is closure. Your body remembers what you worked hard to forget. The time you were rejected, the touch you didn't ask for, the moment you cried and no one came. All of it stays in the tissues, in the breath, in the silence between distractions. So when you reach for the habit, whatever it is, you're not just avoiding discomfort, you're avoiding a ghost. And ghosts don't disappear when ignored, they amplify. Every act of escape replays an old story, one where you're not enough, one where you must earn comfort by abandoning yourself. And so, comfort becomes currency. You trade your stillness for stimulation. You trade your presence for relief. And you tell yourself, I just needed a break. But your body knows better. Your body is keeping score. If this speaks to you, don't just listen. Subscribe, not for motivation, but for memory. Because some parts of you aren't broken, they're just waiting to be heard again. Jung said that what you resist persists. But more than that, it hides. In rituals, in cravings, in that moment where your hand moves before your mind can stop it. Not because you're broken, but because your nervous system was wired for survival, not satisfaction. You weren't taught how to sit with the ache. You were taught to silence it, to distract it, to cover it in dopamine and call it peace. But true peace isn't silent. It's loud. It moves through you like fire before it softens into stillness. To reclaim your energy, you must first reclaim your body. Not control it, not punish it. Just listen. What does it actually want? Not the habit, not the sensation, but underneath. What does it need? Maybe it needs to feel safe again, held again, seen without being touched, loved without being used, known without being consumed. This is where healing begins, not in suppression, but in awareness. It's not about forcing yourself to stop. It's about learning to stay, to feel the wave and not collapse under it. You are not your craving. You are the space that notices it. You are the self that can choose again. And even if you've chosen escape 1,000 times, you can still choose return. Right now. You keep saying tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll stop. Tomorrow I'll try harder. Tomorrow I'll feel better. But tomorrow is just a softer way of saying never. And your shadow knows it. Carl Jung said the shadow isn't evil. It's simply the part of you you've disowned. And the longer you exile it, the louder it whispers. In your habits, in your distractions, in your constant need for stimulation. You don't crave what you think you crave. You crave yourself, your original self. Before the world told you to perform, before your nervous system was trained to flee, before you learned that numbing was safer than knowing. You didn't choose the pattern, but now you can choose to interrupt it. You don't need to fight yourself. You need to sit with yourself, longer than you're used to, deeper than feels comfortable. Because what's underneath the craving is not darkness, it's grief. For the moments you disappeared to stay acceptable, for the self you left behind to stay lovable. And that grief is sacred, not because it feels good, but because it shows you what still matters. You think breaking the pattern is about willpower. It's not. It's about self-honesty, not the kind you perform for others, the kind you whisper at 2 a.m. when no one's watching. This is costing me something. Your energy, your edge, your ability to be present, to connect, to lead, to create. Every time you go back to the loop, you reinforce the belief, I can't face myself. But you can. And when you do, it changes everything. Because the part of you you've been avoiding doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to rejoin you. You don't need a new identity. You need to remember the one you buried. And when that remembering begins, you won't need to escape anymore. You'll sit. You'll breathe. You'll listen. And for the first time in a long time, you'll feel like home. You thought you wanted relief. Then you thought it was desire. But now you see it. It was never about the act. It was always about energy, your energy, the thing they never taught you how to protect. Carl Jung believed we are born whole, not lacking, not sinful, not broken. But over time, we lose pieces of ourselves, in shame, in silence, in habits that feel comforting, but cost everything. You don't crave pleasure. You crave power, your own fire, your own sharpness, your own inner weight that used to enter rooms before you did. But you gave it away, not because you were weak, because you were tired, because no one taught you how to hold your own intensity without numbing it. So you reached for escape, over and over, and escape became your baseline. Your nervous system adapted, your attention scattered, your emotions dulled, and somewhere deep inside, you forgot what clarity feels like. You forgot what grounded masculinity feels like, or the calm power of feminine presence. You became available to everything except yourself. And now your soul is asking for a return. You can feel it in the silence, in the stillness after the habit, in the questions that rise when the screen turns black. Is this all I am? Is this how I want to live? These aren't breakdowns, they're breakthroughs. Carl Jung said, "You are not what has happened to you. You are what you choose to become." And now, you're choosing. You're choosing to stop outsourcing your energy, to stop giving away your inner fire for 15 seconds of escape. Because every time you escape, a part of you stays behind, dizzy, unseen, empty. And that emptiness becomes your baseline, not because you are hollow, but because your power has nowhere to land. But now, you're remembering. And when you remember, you reclaim. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to be good. It means honoring what you feel, without drowning in it. It means setting boundaries with your own habits, not because you're ashamed, but because you know your time is sacred. You wake up, and instead of reaching for numbness, you reach for breath. You pause before the impulse. You ask, what am I really avoiding? And suddenly, the loop is visible. The trance is broken. The shadow becomes clear. You don't fight it. You don't fear it. You integrate it. You walk differently, speak differently. People feel it. They feel the shift in your presence. Not louder, but deeper. You're no longer fragmented. You're full. And when you're full, you stop begging for scraps. You stop chasing false highs. You stop collapsing under your own potential. Because now, you're seated in it. And the world can feel it. You didn't lose yourself all at once. It happened slowly, in the choices you made to feel safe, in the moments you silenced your truth just to keep the peace, in the habits that offered quick comfort but long-term emptiness. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate." Now you're seeing it. The loop. The way your pain has disguised itself as pleasure. How your hunger for connection wore the mask of craving. And here's the most radical truth of all. You were never addicted to pleasure. You were addicted to escape. Because presence was too painful. Feeling was too overwhelming. And somewhere along the way, you believed the lie that silence equals strength. So you disappeared, bit by bit, behind a screen, behind a habit, behind the face you wore so others wouldn't ask questions. But that habit was never you. That numbness was never peace. And that craving wasn't your fault. It was your body's way of saying, I need you. You. Not the edited version, not the one who performs strength, the real one, the one who breaks, who cries, who breathes and shakes and still stays. The self you crave is the self you abandoned, but it's still here. It never left. It's under the noise, beneath the static, waiting for you to stop chasing and start sitting. Sitting with discomfort, sitting with grief, sitting with the ache of being alive without distraction. Most people won't do this. They'll run, because running is easy, and culture sells it to you on every screen. But you're not most people. You've tasted what it's like to remember, to stop reaching for artificial highs and start reaching inward. That's not weakness. That's rebirth. And now, you get to rebuild, not from shame, from awareness, from sovereignty. You get to ask, what am I no longer willing to abandon myself for? And mean it. Because you're no longer seeking relief. You're building resilience. You're no longer outsourcing worth. You're generating it. This is the turning point. When you show up to life not as someone needing escape, but as someone who can hold it all. Joy, grief, longing, stillness. The craving, it still visits. But now, you don't collapse under it. you meet it. Like an old story you no longer believe. Because now you remember how it ends. It ends with return, to presence, to clarity, to self. You're no longer the seeker, you're the source. And when you're ready, watch our next video. Because healing isn't linear, it's a spiral, and every turn inward brings you closer to the self that never left. Some wounds don't just want to be healed, they want to be heard. And here, we're still listening,